Um, my next question's in two parts
Yes.
as well. The first part is, many people say that arranged marriages are forced marriages. Do you agree?
Who said?
No, it's just that people that
Some people say.
yeah.
Arranged marriages, it could be forced marriages and could not be. It is wrong to declare all arranged marriages as belong to one category or another. They can belong to either this or to that category. It depends on the teachings which principally direct the process of marriages and management of marriages, etc. According to to Islamic teachings, as we understand in Ahmadiyya, arranged marriages are not forced marriages at all. Arranged marriages are only now. This is a question which should be discussed at length, but unfortunately we don't have time. So I'll have to be very brief. Later on, or maybe in previous times, I have already done it. But let it be sufficient for the time that arranged marriages, as they're carried out in Ahmadiyyat, only mean that the girls are helped by the parents in offering them some choices and options. They know families, they know people who come to them sometimes, and they have the investigation through Ahmadiyya, Jamaat organization, and other things. So when the parents are quite satisfied that this boy is not a cheat, what he says he is, and his conduct is so good that he would be good to the wife who is going to be his life companion, then they advise their daughters that we think it's all right. Now, then a meeting can be arranged in the presence of the parents, not dating as they understand here in the West, but they can share the same table, they can talk a little bit and know each other a little bit better than before. And then, because an air of trust already has been established between parents and girls in such an atmosphere as I'm talking about, so the girls have no hesitation then in giving their consent to according to their parents' wish, but not because of that wish, but because of their trust in their better judgment, and because of their own first preliminary reaction to the person is their own, personal assessment also helps. So if they both agree, well and good, and there is nothing forced in it. Now comes the tricky part, which is very exceptional, but it also happens. Sometimes, like it happens in other, uh, not all Muslims, but many other Muslim families, those who believe in marriage to be arranged, they are rather stiff in their enforcing the decisions. Those who do not believe, and there is a large number of educated Muslims who do not believe in such things, the girls are given a free choice, so they lie halfway between the Western culture and Islamic values, belonging neither fully to here nor to there. But they make their own choices, sometimes even by dating, sometimes by casual meetings, they try to assess and make their decisions. But what I'm talking about is in Ahmadiyyat. In Ahmadiyyat, we understand that the girls have a right to accept or reject. So if the girls are not convinced and the parents are so totally convinced of the goodness of the marriage that they insist that you must marry, according to Islam, as we understand, parents have no right to enforce their decision upon a girl, a daughter, or anybody who is under their care. Even be it a son or a daughter, it is irrelevant. They have no right to enforce the decision. So what happens? Then these girls have a right to write to Khalifatul Masih. And these incidents are so few. Most often the system is working beautifully, with full agreement between all parties. That being the rare, I can easily handle, and next other khulafa I hope will also be able to handle that. They write to me their problems. The girls sometimes write, sometimes parents write. They say, what can we do? The girl insists that she would not do it. Sometimes the girl says that parents are insisting, I'm not going to do it because of this. So it so happens that sometimes I appoint commissions and they go to meet the father, parents, and listen to their side. They go to meet the girl and listen to their side. And try to bring about a compromise. And very often it happens that I receive letters from both that we are fully satisfied, our problem is resolved. If not, then they suggest to me, for instance, that we think the girl is right. Parents shouldn't do that. And it didn't happen in my case particularly because problems were resolved at that level. But in case of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Salis, my predecessor, it happened once, and he told the parents to take their hands off the girl, and he would take care of her and arrange a better marriage, and this was done. So everybody was happy. And in my case, occasionally I see in the West the problem is slightly more complicated. The girls are not happy with the parents' decision not because of lack of trust in them, but because they have been misbehaving here themselves to a degree that they have got attached to a person so deeply and in private that they cannot tell their parents that we will not marry except that person. And they cannot marry the person of the parents' choice. The person himself happens to be an all right, first class person. So when I suspect this, I don't tell anyone else like Imam Sahib, etc., to go and try to resolve the problem. I tell the parents to send the girl to me, bring her, but I'll have a separate interview. While you sit outside in the office, I'm going to have an interview with this girl. And when I speak normally and with kindness, she always trusts me without fail and tells me everything, the inside story. Said, thank God you have sent the parents out, otherwise we couldn't have been so free. And we admit, we confess, this is it. So most often, not always, most often, when I speak to them on this issue, telling them the pros and cons, they ultimately agree and decide to follow the parents' advice. And they sacrifice their own personal desires for the sake of higher principles. And sometimes when they don't, I tell them, all right, you can walk out of the Jamaat, but you will not remain here. You go out and do whatever you may. And then I tell the parents to consider such a person dead, but treat her kindly in the sense that whatever they owe to their children normally, by way of giving them money or things, they should do the same. But they should consider them the daughter to be lost, but it happens very rarely. I think hardly in 2 or 3 cases during my last 10 years experience in Europe.